Thanks. This is really wonderful to be here, and I'll tell you why. Because on the Transgendered Monopoly Board of Life, this is like free parking for me. I thank you. I thank you because this is a safe space for me, that I know that I'm surrounded by people who are generally accepting, and there's a difference between acceptance and affirming. I think most of you are probably affirming. There's a difference. Acceptance is that I accept the fact that some third world countries do not treat women the way they should, but that doesn't mean that I affirm it or approve of it. So anyway, for me and my wife, when we walk out of here today, I think everything will be fine. But when I walk out that door, away from all of you wonderful people, I just may run into the Duck Dynasty. And you just never know, and because the way I'm dressed, for some reason, that is licensed for some people to want to harm me in some ways. So I thank you, I truly do. This has been a wonderful group. I've been warmly welcomed by Bobby, who's been just wonderful, and her husband, Bud, who is a delightful man. And that is not something I guess we say about a lot of men, but delightful is something that encompasses many things, warmth being one of them. So thank you, I appreciate that. And for a lot of the other men here, I am surrounded, I think, by a lot of self-assured men. You guys know that this does not rub off, okay? And I promise you, I will not try to accessorize you, okay? Some of you could use it. I promise I won't try and accessorize you. So, let me start off with my friend the Blue Frog. And you're probably wondering why my friend the Blue Frog is up there, and a lot of it has to do with not only diversity issues, but he is not photoshopped. He is real. We had him around our pond for about 2 days, and then the great blue heron, I think, ate him. But why is he blue? Well, what we found out is that frogs have blue and yellow nematodes in their chromosomes. Well, he never got the yellow ones, so he's blue. Well, to go on with that, it's like one of the things that they've studied with transgender people is, all of you know, I think, that the 6th or 7th week, we are all female when we are born, when we conceive. At some point in the 6th or 7th week, we get to change to male. There's a hormone bath that occurs. One of the studies indicates that perhaps I didn't get the full car wash. Okay? But there's nature, there's nurture studies out there, and I haven't got the time. I am going to try to fit in about 6 hours of information in about an hour and a half, and I'm going to try and tell you all the people who are under the transgendered umbrella. We're going to talk about the difference between gender and sexuality issues. We're going to explode some stereotypes later on. I've got a couple other pictures up here after our little blue frog friend, and then hopefully we'll open it up to questions. So, why do I do what I do? Is it about the clothes? Is it about persona? Is it about sexuality? What is it all about? This is who I am. All of you, this is who you are. We all have something. Ladies and gentlemen, cisgendered people, other trans people that are in the room, people who identify otherwise, this is just who I am. I am probably about the most well-adjusted person I know. If I was any more well-adjusted, I'd die from boredom. So we'll get going here. Let me see. I think Jim has got this lined up for me. Oh, I have to mention, it's been a tough week for me. I've been a little bit sick, and a couple of things happened. So a little cognitive dissonance. What may happen is that his voice may appear. Okay, so you may all of a sudden hear something like this. Okay, go back in the closet. Oh, now you need me? Yes, I do. Okay. All right. Wait a minute. That's not supposed. That's. Oh, well, I'll go ahead and do these now. Hold on. Might as well do it since they're here. Can I pause it? Same individual, two different persons. Those are all me. The lower right-hand corner, taken many years ago in one of my first law enforcement jobs. To the left there in the great blue dress was modeling at my first transgender convention. The upper left photo, volunteering for the United States Park Service out on Michigan Island, where I went for days without seeing a soul, and it was wonderful. Okay, why did I include these? As you can see, transgenderism, all races and ethnicities. I cannot remember my friend's name there. That was taken in Chicago. For the African American folks, transgendered is difficult. It is a difficult concept. My friend on the left, Jennifer, in the summer you will find her as him doing rendezvous and mountain men, and he's an expert in antique firearms. So part of the reason why I show these is just to explode those myths that we are not masculine. For me, I have a blended personality. I once had a man come up to me and say, "What have you done to yourself?" In essence, what he said is, "Why have you lessened yourself?" I have not lessened myself in any way whatsoever. For me, it's like I have just broadened my own outlook on things. Gentlemen, it is a lot tougher to be a woman in this society, okay? It's just incredible things. I got to tell you something. I ran a little bit late this morning. I was about 10 minutes late. You know why? My wife and I had a discussion about whether or not I should button this one or not button it. That's what so 10 minutes we went back and forth. Do I button this or not button it? That's just about the button, much less all the accessorizing. For those women out there that have jobs where they have to do this every day, all you guys out there should do this at least once on Halloween, to know what the women in your lives have to go through. Okay? It is not easy. Our society expects that professional women are going to look like this all the time, and it's a lot more expensive. Folks, this suit is not off the rack. Okay, and it costs more. It's like for guys, you go on in and it's like you don't have to spend that much. But for women, it's a lot. It's a lot of money. Okay. All right, let me move on. So yeah, that's my good friend. That's my famous rose on the piano picture, by the way. Picture on the right, just because I like it. Picture on the upper left is my friend Ellen. That was at a trans convention. I modeled that red dress. Ellen now, from what I understand, considered herself a cross-dresser, has transitioned. Gender reaffirmation surgery is what it's now called. Prior to that was in the military and was an explosives ordnance expert. Down on the bottom is a picture of the Holiday and Femme convention in Chicago about 10, 12 years ago. There's only 2 genetic women in that picture. All the way to the left is Marcy, who was a lieutenant colonel in the Air Force and taught at the Air Force Academy. The next person, Tootsie, was a businesswoman. Down in front is yours truly. The lady with the long hair right behind me, Phyllis, runs a transgender service in Denver. The tall woman in the back is Sue Ann. I met her. She started our Tri-S chapter in Denver as the president. Identified as a cross-dresser, I think about 3 or 4 years ago, also went through gender reaffirmation surgery while on the job as United States Deputy Marshal. To the right, her left, to the right is Johanna. I don't know what Johanna does. The gal in the back is Jane Ellen Fairfax, who is still the president of Tri-S, which is the Society for the Second Self, which is a cross-dresser support group. He is a physician. The lady in front is his wife, Frances, they're both from Texas, from Houston, and devoutly religious. She struggled, as you can imagine, with her husband's idiosyncrasy. The person on the right is from the Philippines, my friend Dottie, who I did many, many presentations with. Outreach presentations is in colleges and universities. He has a job, actually, that he really never could tell me what he did. I do know that he's a retired major in the Army. He generally is a rocket scientist and works on missile placement programs. So, I did that on purpose. Now, at the other extreme, there are those men who you would consider to be effeminate as well, okay? But part of this is I just wanted to blow the stereotypes out to say, I did what I did because what I did it well and I enjoyed it. And there's the men who do what I do, for whatever reason, this is just a part of who we are. Now you read some studies out there that say, oh, this is not very common, it's like only 3 in every 1,000. Try at least 3 in every 100 people, not just men. 3 in every 100 probably have some indications of being transgender. And what is that about? It's like, who knows where it comes from? Why are you left-handed? Why is there albinoism? It's just it just happens. For me to be up here in this great black suit, to not be able to do this would be equivalent to giving a pianist a piano that doesn't play music. It would be equivalent to giving an artist a canvas and not giving him or her paint. So this is a form of expression. This is a part of who I am. And everyone here, I like who I am. And unfortunately, there's people out there that just don't want that. And we all know, being free thinkers, we have so many people out there who want to live in those tiny bubbles of conformity. And a lot of it is because they just don't know how to deal with people that are different from themselves. I was scared to death to step out my door 20 years ago. I didn't know that there were people like you out there. I thought everyone was going to point and laugh at me. And I found that that was not true. There are people out there that are dangerous. I met them in my profession. So, let me see if I got one more. Oh, no. Oh. Okay, that's another one of me. That was, I worked for the Larimer County Sheriff's Office in 1979. And I was such a baby then, I think I was 24 years old. Okay, I'm gonna kind of use our old presentation that we did when we did presentations for colleges and universities. And that was geared more towards cross-dressing, and it's like, so take out the cross-dressing and I guess put in transgendered in there. I originally identified as a cross-dresser. And a cross-dresser is generally someone, and there are female cross-dressers as well, but mostly male. I came to realize about 4 or 5 years ago that this is actually a part of who I am, and we're going to get into transgender graphs and charts here in just a bit, and I'll show you how that works. Cross-dressing goes back a long, long ways. In the Native American culture, it's known as being a two-spirited person. There are other cultures that embrace transgender people or cross-dressers as well without the cultural stigmatisms that our society seems to get about it. So what about transgendered? What is it? How is it related to these other letters? Gay, lesbian, bisexual, the greedy people, transgendered, intersex, queer, questioning, omnisexual, pansexual, polysexual, androgynous, and asexual. You've got gender terms in there, and you've got sexuality terms in there. And you know what? They all mix together. You don't have to be just one. You can be any of those things. And we'll get into that too. Because I got to go fast. And I'm from New York, so I really talk fast because when you're from New York, you do talk fast. And I'm trying to slow it down because I am dyslexic slightly, and I won't tell that old Stephen Wright joke, which is appropriate for this group, which is I'm also agnostic and an insomniac. I was up all night wondering if there really is a dog. You all know that one, right? Just an aside, cross-dresser is generally the term that's preferred now as opposed to transvestite because it's got such clinical terms to it, and generally now we look at somebody who's a transvestite as somebody who derives some degree of eroticism for the clothing as well, which I must admit is there. It was there for me in the beginning, not so much now. In England, by the way, Eddie Izzard is known as a transvestite because they flip it. So cross-dresser is their term that basically is not as much in use or is considered a bit of an insult. But here we prefer cross-dresser. Someone who wears things associated with the other biological sex. Okay, well, what does that mean? Think about that. How many of you ladies out there, cisgendered ladies, what I mean by cisgendered is those people who I specifically identify based on their biological sex. How many of you ladies out there consider yourself to be cross-dressed at the moment? How many of you got pants on? Okay, what's up with that? Why is it that our society allowed that to happen? Now, obviously, it's ease and comfort, but what happened there that was made that okay? Do y'all remember going back to All in the Family when Edith wore the first pantsuit back in 1972? Oh my God, Archie had a fit. So what happened that it's like it's okay for women to do that? Now look at something else that was very interesting in our society. 1980s had women in business wearing the power suit. Do you remember that? It was a great look, but it's like, you know why it was there? Basically to give women a little bit more credibility and assertiveness in their look so they could compete in a man's world. Someone attempting to pass as a member of the other biological sex. It used to be that was the big thing we all worried about was passing. If I blend in, that's fine by me. I just like to blend. Where did cross-dressing come from? It's probably a combination of nature and nurture, but it's probably all mostly nature. I knew as soon as I was 5 years old that I was different. I was attracted to what the girls were wearing. And I acted on it sometimes, and then I went years without touching a thing. And then it would come back again. Some of the studies that they've done indicate that stress, particularly occupations that are stressful or something else that is bringing stress on into your life, somehow triggers it. Who knows whether that's associated? A lot of that kind of study has gone on with herpes. That all of a sudden you'll have a herpes outbreak because it's stress related. Not that the two are connected, but nevertheless it's like stress apparently plays a role. For us, and the men in my community, it's seen as, perhaps, I could say it this way. This is like taking a mini vacation away from myself, if that makes sense. Some people don't know how to handle stress. This is a different way of handling stress. Nevertheless, it works. Okay, we all work with our stress in different ways. So, does a woman cross-dress when wearing clothes associated with men? Not necessarily in our society anymore, unless it's really specific, like a tuxedo or a suit or something else really specific. Women can generally just about wear anything that they want. Do the clothes make the cross-dresser? Not necessarily, because it's all about what the person thinks inside. What then distinguishes a cross-dresser from the fashion challenged? Some of my community is fashion challenged, and those of us who have been around the block a little bit have to say, honey, come over here. What happens is, it's kind of funny, I went to a transgender convention once. I'm trying to think of where I was. There was a gentleman there, cross-dresser, who was probably in his 70s and was wearing an outfit that a teenager about 15 would wear, because he had to go through all the steps to get to where he should have been. So he basically dressed the way he wanted to when he was 15 or 18 years old. Obviously inappropriate. So those of us would take him aside. Who was this guy? I won't say specifically, but if I remember right, he was an attorney for one of the presidential foundations. Okay. Where did it come from? Lots of theories. Hypothalamus development. Apparently there's some indications that in those of us that are transgendered, there's a little bit of different brain development. There's aspects that we have some degree of the feminine brain. Hormone introduction, we talked about that. Maybe I didn't get the full car wash. Socialized, nurtured into it. That's certainly a possibility as well. In other words, the parents, for whatever reason, decided that they were going to dress their male child or female child. I keep on saying more male, but this goes both ways. I should also say that it's like I've been kind of talking more about cross-dressing, but really I want to talk more about the whole transgendered spectrum. Gina and I went to a conference, a Creating Change conference in Minneapolis about 3 years ago. There were a couple of other male to female transgendered person like myself there, but I looked around and I was surrounded by a lot of short men with beards. And it took me a while to get it that those were female to male, and they outnumbered us. So anyway, somebody has asked me what the percentage is of transgender people. Probably about 60% male and about 40% female to male. The thing is, you just hear more about us than you do because we make more news. And transgender people have been in the news lately. I found it interesting here. I found this out that Huffington Post has online has a separate transgender news column that they devote to anything. One of the recent articles was a transgender teacher who announced that he was going to come back. He was transitioning, taught before Christmas, and came back in his female persona, and that's how he was going to remain. And of course, then all the legal battles started ensuing. What we know spans all socioeconomic strata. That's true. In fact, what I found is through my community is that most of the men that I knew generally were middle class or higher, and generally held positions of authority. My friend Jennifer was the assistant director of a government weather service. I'm not going to say specifically. It is more evident in men than women, and I've touched on this before. It existed in many human cultures throughout the ages. I remember reading an account of I hope I'm pronouncing this right, the Tlingit tribe of British Columbia. When they made their totem poles, at the very top was a transgendered person so that the gods would bring good luck upon the tribe. Two-spirited people were revered in a lot of Native American cultures and some East Indian cultures, I believe, as well. So, what is it? In fact, what is gender and how do you transit? Well, that means you cross it. How can I describe myself? I'm going to put a line on the graph here in a bit, and it's like all of you might be able to honestly say, where am I at on this line? For the and most of you will be at one end or the other. You'll say you're either male or female. We all have some traits. I was never a parent. For those of you men who have been fathers, successful fathers, you probably had some nurturing abilities that most people would say is a feminine quality. That's wonderful that you have that, okay? For me, I considered myself a gender fluid individual. An hour from now, I could come back in this room and guys, we can talk football and, about the Stanley Bowl and the Super Cup. Oh, that's right, Super Cup is that new baby four thing. Okay, but anyway, we can come back and you won't know that it's me. You will not know that it's me unless you're really observant. Because I just morph right back into what is comfortable for me. I'm incredibly comfortable on both sides. This is a strength. My masculine side is a strength. In the summertime, the guy that you saw there out on the islands, that's who you're going to see in the summertime. Because in about another 3 weeks, this suit's going to go away. The hair's going to go on the rack. Okay? About October or so, usually around Halloween, which is the cross-dressers' national holiday, by the way. This side of me may come back again because there's just too many. You guys know there's just a lot of things to do in the summer. It's like 5 minutes after dinner, I'm out fishing. I got the canoe in the water and I'm fishing, or I'm ATVing out our front door. This is another aspect of my personality that I blended and made me stronger. Now that's not to say that I expect all of you guys to do this, but for me it works, and for a lot of others. Now, I should also say that that differs. I got to give you that disclaimer out there. When you ask a transgender person to identify themselves, it's going to be a little bit different depending on the person that you talk to. I already talked about the soup and all those letters, again, that are mixing gender and sexuality. Gender is not the same as sex. We're going to get to the chart here in a bit. Gender is a cultural construct. We, society, make it up to describe and define the roles and characteristics of masculinity and femininity. I want you all to think back about 250 years ago. Think about what men were wearing 250 years ago. Guys, what would you have been wearing? Who knows their history? Got the powdered wig going on. You've got the high heels. You got the silk hose. And by the way, the silkier that hose was, identified your wealth. Because if you had that silky white hose on, you were getting it from China, and you were basically saying, I am well-to-do. If you look at the people who are not well off in those days, you're going to see equivalent to what is kind of like a sock. Okay? So the guys were in those red suits with what? The lace cuffs? Face powdered? That would have been normal. And if this was 250 years ago, all of you guys would have been dressed like that, otherwise you would not have been considered normal. And what is normal? A setting on a dryer is what someone told me. Sex is the biological manifestation of procreation. It takes two to tango. We know that. We equate, in society, our society, we equate gender and sex because they typically refer to characteristics of the same person, but they are two distinct things. It's getting time for the charts and graphs. How you think about yourself, how you attire yourself, and who you want to be intimate with are entirely different things. Okay, we get down into transsexualism. Transsexual is people who actually have made the move to go from one gender to the other. However, there are three distinctions of that. Pre-op transsexual, post-op transsexual, and non-op transsexual. What do those things mean? Generally, a transsexual is someone who, from the get-go, from the time they knew that they could think, they knew that they were in the wrong body. So at some point down the road, it's like they do want to make that switch, but it's extremely difficult because you've got familial considerations, you've got financial considerations, you've got medical considerations to think of. So there are some people that are considered non-op transsexuals for those reasons. They will never be able to do anything. That does not mean that they don't feel differently about themselves. So that takes some practice to assume. You can put the dress or the skirt on, or the pants and the three-piece suit on for the female to males. But guys can't walk like this. That's how men walk. So it's like you automatically give yourself away. So it's like part of it is, it's like I can put the skirt on and the dress, but if you'll notice, it's like my hands are moving. Now in my guy mode, it's like I don't talk with my hands as much. But when I'm in my feminine mode, look at it, I can't even stop it. It just keeps on going. Stop it, stop it, stop it. But that's part of it because women talk with their hands. I read where women use 14,000 words a day, men use 3,000. We men know that we communicate vertically, chain of command, right, guys? Women communicate horizontally. It's all about building relationships. So it's for that person who has to change gender, whether it's temporary or permanent, you have to learn the roles, you have to learn the traits of other people as well. The walk, the talk is just as important. Okay, roles and characteristics of gender. I just talked a little bit about it. How we interact with other people, the tasks and job we perform. So we were so... I remember when I was a kid, it's like I couldn't have been a nurse. That just wasn't something you did. You couldn't have been a florist. You couldn't have been all these things. Women couldn't be engineers. They couldn't do this, they couldn't do that, because we had to fit in these little boxes. Well, as a society, what have we done to ourselves? Here's this great gift that this person has been giving, whether or not they're an interior designer or they get whatever it is, and we're basically saying, no, you can't do that. Well, who suffers but us as society? We take this great gift that somebody's been given, but because it's not consistent with what we think that people should do, we say, no, you can't do that. That's nonsense. If I have to go in for a surgery and something has happened to me and the best doctor out there is gay and the best nurse is lesbian and the best anesthesiologist is transgendered, that's the people I want caring for me. Do you really want, number 32 in the class of 33? Okay, I'm going to blow ease through some of this. Social outlook, nurturing, commanding, all those things as men or women that we learn from our mothers or fathers of how to interact, what you're supposed to do. All those are different things. And on your table, I can only make a copy for one table, but there is a list of all of these kind of definitions out there of what they are. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it because I'm trying to speak more about gender issues. Transsexualism was known as the Harry Benjamin syndrome. As you all know, gay was taken out of the diagnostic manual. And they no longer consider me actually ill anymore. I supposedly suffer from gender dysphoria. I guess. I don't know. I don't feel like I suffer from anything, but I guess they got to give me a label. Okay. An intersex person is somebody that may or may not possess biological genitalia of either sex. So I'll let you all look at those. I want to get going because I don't want to run out of time. And all of these, our society, particularly our current youth, are more open about all of these things. Okay, now we're going to get to the charts and graphs. So our group, when we did things, it's like we would come in as a panel of people, and we usually would bring one of our wives along with us. And I'm going to tell you my little bit of a personal story here in a bit, and we would have people come up, and they would all tell students generally, this is colleges and universities, what our personal story was, how we came to know about ourselves. One of our group, just so you know, getting into diversity again, is Sheila, who is a little person, married to a little person, whose wife struggled with it. They had a 12-year-old daughter who was normal, who at 12 years old fell down the stairs and became quadriplegic. So now you talk about a group of people, a family of people who have issues or things to resolve in their families. Sheila made a lot of presentations, generally confined to a scooter or a wheelchair. This is getting into what I'm working off of here is basically was for us when we were training and teaching other panelists. Okay, I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I grew up on Long Island, New York, played Little League, had a good family, had a good parents. My dad passed away this last Wednesday. I was scheduled to do this presentation last year, and he had a heart attack, and then so I had to reschedule. So it's okay. I mean, I knew it was coming, but it's still a little fresh. But anyway, I had good parents, I had good education, I had good friends. We were kind of middle class, lower middle class. Dad worked for the electric company. Irish. Social background was was in Levittown, New York, which actually was a racist community, by the way. When Levitt set that up, he set it up that no blacks were allowed to live there. When and how did you discover you were different? I knew when I was about 5 years old. All of a sudden, I knew that I was attracted to my friends, the sisters across the way had the dresses, and I said, hey, can I borrow one of those? What did you do about this newfound revelation? That's what I did. Did you tell anyone? Did I tell anyone? That's the biggie. No, I didn't tell anyone. I hid those clothes up in the attic. I covered them up with the insulation. They were in a suitcase. I didn't want anybody to know because I was afraid of being terribly ostracized. I was afraid of losing my job. This was later on. No, I didn't tell anybody. And then something happened. Probably about 20 years ago, I felt like I could not contain this aspect of my being anymore. So I turned lemons into lemonade. And I went out and about and I decided I was going to try and make a difference. I wanted to go places and tell people that we were okay and have people learn about other people out there, because there are still people in my community that are afraid to go out the door. They are in fear, literally, that they're going to be ostracized or they're going to lose their job or whatever the case may be, because we're going to tell people that they're different. Did I tell anyone who and what happened? It's like I told my best friend, I think, and he says, I always knew there was something different about you, but he never could pinpoint it. And how did you feel about yourself? It's like after that hump was crossed, it's like I started feeling better and better when I realized that the vast majority of our society was accepting people like yourselves. Did I think it was wrong? Well, I did think it was wrong to begin with, because society said that I was not supposed to do this. Society says that if I am born a male, I have male parts, I am supposed to think like a man, I'm supposed to dress like a man, and I'm supposed to be attracted to women. As you can see by my little diamond there, it's like, that's not me. And a lot of us don't have 90-degree angles. Many of you do, and that's okay. You're all right too. It may be a little boring, but that's okay. So did I think it was wrong? And then I came to realize, no, it was not wrong. We are who we are. Just like my little blue frog friend, he does not know he's different, okay? I never saw the other frogs treated him differently, but... How did it involve in your life? Stress would bring on my cross-dressing, but it became that it was part of who I am. My first wife struggled with it immensely. She had a nephew who was trans as well. She tried, we separated. It was not the major thing in our life that we separated, but it was there. It was just not a good mix, but she tried. Did your feelings about yourself change as you matured? Yes, I discussed that. Again, it's not just about the clothing. I don't feel at this point that I'm cross-dressed, because I'm dressing consistent with who I am right now. In another hour or tomorrow, I'll be dressed consistent with who I am then, which will be like blue jeans and a t-shirt that says something stupid on it. How does it manifest in your life today? I like doing things like this. I was very active when I lived out west, and I did a lot of presentations. Just before I met my current wife, I was going to be the director of outreach for the national organization of Tri-S, and turned it down. Have you told anyone since your early days? Yes, I've told a lot more people, a lot more open about it. I could probably count people on one hand when I first came out, but yeah, there's a lot of people know. But my family does not know. I don't believe my father knew. My mom, I think, has some indications. I don't think my brother does. Some friends do. Other people that I trusted. And the part that doesn't play in your life today, I think I told you that. It's like you'll see this part of me for 6 months of the year, you'll see the other part of me for 6 months of the year. I would say a percentage of time overall, 365 days a year, you're probably looking about 10% of my life. That's Jeanine. The other 90% spends at his job. Cut off. Okay.